Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. We are finally back after the great event that was the World Cup, but we'll come to that shortly. I'm very glad to welcome for the now just two of the E-Tims team. Hopefully Ralph Malv can make it, but we're just waiting on him. But first of all, I'll welcome the man from the suburbs, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Evening, guys.
And we'll get our very special guest from the countryside, Mr. Jeremy Clarkson. No, I'm sorry, he's actually at the council. Our man in the country, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty. What country are you in at the moment, Monty?
I'm in Ireland at the minute, Desi. I'm thankfully not writing any particularly misogynistic or racist columns at the minute.
There's plenty of time. We may have at least an hour, but I just throw that gag in.
That was Ralph's jobs, isn't it?
If anyone hasn't seen the headlines, I apologise for the fat joke went over your head. Okay, we'll get quite a lot to cover here, and we may skip over a few items, and apologies if I miss any. And of course, thanks to everyone for listening, and apologies if you've been wondering where the podcast has went, but we were letting the most recent big sporting events take place, and we thought we'd come back just before Christmas. So we're going to combine a few things, especially the World Cup and Christmas. But first of all, Hector, I've got a knock-knock joke for you. Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Sydney Cup.
Sydney Cup who?
Exactly. That's what happens when you have exhibition competitions halfway around the world during the World Cup. Does anybody even remember that happened?
No. I couldn't tell you the result. I couldn't tell you what scored.
I had to look up. Apparently we get beat 2-1 and then we drew 0-0.
Nah, can I just... Nah, Daisy. I think you took the hump. Joking aside, one of my funniest things about it is, you know, I hate friendlies. I've not been to a friendly for years, 20 years. Don't like them. They're horrible. And one of the funniest things was Daisy trying to tell people, it's only a friendly. You can imagine what happens on Twitter. It's only a friendly. And he must have got inundated. Most folk backing him. And others going, we must win every game. Every game's important. And says we don't stop. And you're going, fuck me, man. You know, I was laughing. I kept it. I thought, I'm not getting involved. I just laughed.
Ange out. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
It's been you actually missed that. That's one of the downfalls of the World Cup being played in December, Monty. You missed the Ange out rants for any old nonsense, like if you don't score in the first 13 minutes of a game. I mean, it's like who even controls the whole of the Twitter sphere.
I think the only noteworthy thing of that trip, okay, it's great for the marketing and all that, but I think if the stats or if the reports were accurate, we're going to earn twice as much out of that trip as we will for potentially winning the SPFL. And I think when you look at it in those terms, it's a decent jolly. It's great to market the club down there. It's a good springboard into Asia for marketing if we're going to do it and do it properly with Ange here for the next 3 or 4 years. But it's just a fucking waste of time.
You say that there, you just reminded me of something else which ties into that, Hector. I was in a taxi on Saturday. I think it's Saturday. I was in a taxi on Saturday, and I get in a taxi and starts the usual talking away, or even I can't remember if it was Saturday or the previous Saturday. It must have been the previous Saturday. Sorry. And the taxi driver goes, something, and he goes, Celtic man, and I went, aye. He went, I see that get beat again yesterday, whatever it was with that Benfica friendly. No, and I'm like, aye, didn't they? Playing Benfica in a friendly. I mean, really? As if it's going to go, record books will show it was a day. You know what I mean? Another 3 points lost. So yeah, but it was obviously nice. The Sydney Cup for it did look good for the odds. A lot of Australian Celtic fans, obviously. And I know Harry Duffy, my friend in Melbourne, he was gone. And again, like we think it's annoying at times having to go and wait an hour in the traffic. Imagine like going halfway or going the full length of Australia and across Asia and that, some of the journeys these guys do to see football. So it was good for them to get the opportunities.
And back to Monty's point, by all accounts, if we win the league and we get straight into the Champions League, we're lined up to go to Japan next summer. So that, I think that's the natural stepping stone, isn't it?
Nice. It'll be Japan. It'll be Japan then, Buenos Aires. That's what we're waiting on now, isn't it? We've moved on from Madrid to be in the dream game, Hector, but we'll come on to the...
Boca Juniors has got to be in it, Boca Juniors.
That'll be right. We'll come on to that next. Right, so we're just getting the wee stuff out of the way. Obviously, we're going to concentrate on the World Cup, but let's get the insignificant stuff out of the way. Monty, you are... Well, I was going to say you are the finance man. You're not the board man, because we all know who the board man is at E-Tins these days.
God bless them all, every one of them.
Hector. So you are the finance man, Monty. So I just made some notes here. Last June 2021, a certain Mr. Peter Lawwell stepped down as the Chief Executive Officer. And then on the 2nd of December this year, it's been announced that he will become the new chairman. Isn't that nice?
What a coincidence. Who would have thought it? Who would have predicted it? Who would have predicted that Dermot Desmond would go against every piece of known good practice governance and reappoint a CEO in the knowledge that said chairman had a hand in appointing the current CEO, which is, from an oversight perspective and from a corporate governance perspective, it's just not the done thing. In fact, it's actually recommended you don't do that. But, and there's always a but, if you strip away the emotion of Lawwell's ego and what it did during his tenure, Lawwell was actually a very, very successful CEO for Celtic Football Club. In the last couple of years before he left, he moved into the political sphere of European football and sat on various boards in UEFA, as I understand it, and others. So it's a classic Dermot Desmond appointment, even though the guys go back now 15, 20 years. He always appoints people who are connected. And he appoints people who are connected, not for the obvious reason. If you look at our chairmans over the last 10 to 15 years, John Reid, and everyone went, wow, why do we have a lunatic like that as chair? Then you look at his political connections and you see Dermot Desmond's investment in London City Airport and everything else. You look at Bankier and all of his various connections in Scottish sort of highbrow society and all that. It's a good appointment, but it's a bad appointment at the same time, Desi. I personally don't think it's of any real consequence to the football operations, but from a corporate oversight and a corporate governance perspective, it's not a good thing. But Desmond doesn't give a toss. He don't care. It's his boy. And Nicholson's Peter's boy. And it's just the nepotism will continue for as long as Dermot's the custodian. So, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, interesting. Well, that's us getting now 2 Lawwells. That's us. We're getting a dynasty ready there. 2 Lawwells at Celtic Park. But it will be interesting to see how that dynamic plays, regardless of how the corporate structure's meant to be. Regardless, me and the chairman this year, you're here for the meetings, that's all. I'm sure he'll make use of that.
That's the critical thing. Sorry, Hector, just before I round it out. He's appointed as a non-executive, i.e. he has no power, but he has a huge amount of background power. And that's the problem.
That's like saying the people behind the Tory Prime Minister don't have any power.
The 1922 club have no power, or the ERG have no power. Yes, they fucking do. And that's the reality of politics at that senior level. However, I do think, and sorry, Hector, I jumped in, I know you were going to come in. I do think in the wider sphere of the changes that are happening in European football, it's a very, very smart appointment. It's just a pity that his background is such that it raises a few eyebrows or it raises a few questions on who he is.
I was just going to say, and I'm not disputing when we mention nepotism, because it's a fact. Desmond's boys heavily involved, and you'd mentioned Peter Lawwell's son. I would just add, though, in terms of a balance with Lawwell's son, though, he has been away. He has went to Manchester City. He has been part of the City Group, working around the globe, and by all accounts, reading his background, did a very good job. So it's just a pity. His name is Lawwell. That will stick because he's who his father is. But from a professional basis, in terms of what he's done pre-Celtic, I think the guy would tick a lot of the boxes that you'd want to see in that role. And he's also got a particularly close working relationship with Ange. pre-Celtic as well. So,
and the non-executive piece, Hector, is the key. He has no day-to-day directive report. The role of the chair is to hold the board to account for doing what they say they do.
Allegedly.
Look at his wee face. Sorry, listeners, you can't see Hector's wee face. It started, a wee smile broke out. This is, Monty said the word, the board there. You can almost see the eyes were glistening over.
Yeah. Just don't use slag beautiful Brian Wilson, right? Don't use their slag that man.
Well, I was just about to ask him what the current trajectory for the board is, now that Hector's effectively inside the tent at this stage.
Your point's a really good one, regards law, what he has been doing. And that's a matter of fact, what he has been doing in terms of UEFA. And looking at not just financial fair play as a throwaway line and we'll stick it to the big boys, but actually what has happened over the last 12 months. You have had clubs, one in particular close to home, but many of them have been actually named and shamed by UEFA. Juventus, amongst others, have been told you cannot spend another penny. So there's definitely been a lot happening there for the right reasons. He has had an input to it. There's no two ways about it. So, but I get your point about coming back and even his chair, but it should be, as you say, doing the basic governance role and not getting involved day to day. But will that really happen? That's
the key. That's the key. And I don't think, though, just to round out, because I know no one's here to hear us talk about corporate structures of all three listeners that we have. I don't think it'll have any impact on the day-to-day running of football operations. If it does, the beauty is we have another manager similar to O'Neill, who didn't take any of the previous chairman, Brian Quinn. O'Neill took none of Quinn's shit. But remember, Quinn got caught out with a voicemail. Our esteemed manager wants to spend more money than we have.
Life in the slowly, remember? Life in the slowly.
Yeah. That's the politicking that will go on in the background. But I don't think Ange isn't looking for Rodgers type spending. He doesn't need it.
Different beast.
And he had O'Neill type control of football operations. I think if Peter was to try and muddy the waters, you'll hear very, very quickly, directly from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, I think the most interesting aspect will be initially just how visible it is. Is he suddenly making those press interviews? Because you don't see it in Robertson at the moment, or you don't see any of him. He just
working away in the background. Yeah, it
depends. If he just becomes that guy in the background who turns up at AGM every November, lovely. Thanks very much, Peter. That's all. You've earned the right to sit in a comfy seat in the stand.
Yep.
Enjoy yourself, mate. But just don't start becoming Mr. Celtic. No, that sort of way. Don't start becoming that guy.
Nail on head, Desi. In rounding out the point, the less you hear of him, the better job he's doing.
Exactly. Right. So that's Lawwell's return. So I just want to pick that up. Right, Hector, I know you like your quiz questions, right? So Hector, who said, right, you ready? This is a quote, direct quote. Who said, integrity is a real big thing for me, and loyalty. You don't give it to receive it back. But if those are the things you live by, then at times when you are put in a position, you have to be strong by them. Who said that on the 24th of November, 2022?
This is Michael Beale.
Correct. You have won tonight's quiz. And for that, you've won the manager's position at Queen's Park Rangers. Please report to Loftus Road or wherever it is they play these days. 4 days later, Mr. Loyalty was announced as BealeBalls has returned to Ibrox. So, any thoughts on that, Hector?
It's been interesting because the World Cup's been on, and initially from a slow start, we've all been pretty engrossed, and we'll talk about that probably a little bit more. But it's having no domestic football, it's been on the periphery to a large degree just until this week, I suppose. So I've noticed there's been some comments from him, but I've kind of ignored the guy, funnily enough, until today. And it was on the news tonight, and he was getting asked, he didn't apparently name Celtic, the other club, or something like that. Which, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with. He get pulled up at the press conference, and he was asked about it. But the point I'm trying to get to, I suppose, is that it was how he came across. He didn't come across like what I had perceived him to be, because he was always the background guy with Gerard, wasn't he? Gerard was the front, understandably so, and he was always the training ground guru, the coach. And by the way, he got a lot of good plaudits for it. Let's be honest about it. But now he's the front man. And watching him speak today, I was quite surprised at how, choose my words right here, he lacked eloquence. He wasn't clear. He was a sort of...
In terms would just call it on brand.
No, he was a bit of a geezer. You know, and I was really surprised. I didn't expect that. I don't know, you get a perception of someone. I thought he'd be a coach guy who'd done all his stuff, and he was highly articulate, and he would come across so clear. I didn't get that. I thought he was a bit of a geezer, which really took me aback. Compare and contrast him to even Van Bronckhorst, Ange, and others who are very clear on their message. You may not agree with them, but you know, this guy, I thought, since you're being dragged off the street and thrown into that job. So I was really taken aback. I was really surprised by how he came across.
Bromley, I'm just looking up here. Bromley, West London. That's where he's originally from. Started off with Charlton.
I would stress the word allegedly, because there might be a lawyer listening, or rumours they would say. But apparently, so I heard, his deal to go and take over is a unique one in that contractually he is due a significant percentage of any profit that they make on signings that he makes. It's unique. That's what I heard. Could be bullshit. But that guy is on a retainer.
Is that not known universally as a Jackie McNamara clause?
It could be. It could be. But that apparently, I meant to flick it on actually. I was told this last Friday night in Dublin by a guy who would kind of know a little bit. Apparently it's legit. And the driver behind it is the likes of Aribo and Bassi, who were his identified things. Now, he's already took first pass in anything he would have wanted to do this year because he brought them all to QPR with him on the story of loyalty and I'm going to build you up into a multi-million-pound player. So it's obviously something that the guy believes he can do. And he actually has proven that he can do it. If you look at those two guys in particular, Bassi and Aribo, for about, I think, 600 grand between the two of them. Sold for reportedly 20 odd million, combined. But apparently that, the reason for walking away from a championship job, having rejected a Premier League job, wasn't just money. This is kind of game-changing sums of money if he's successful in signing players, developing them, and selling them for multi-millions. I can't think of any other football manager, head coach, or anyone else who's in that side of the business who gets remunerated in that way. They're not doing anything illegal. It's just the way it is.
Interesting. Well, it has brought. I know, Hector. You're a man of fashion. He has brought the brown brogues back, which is nice. Yeah, and the players have to dress in their club suits before matches. None of that tracksuit. Looking like gypsies, I believe one of the Rangers fans quoted on Twitter in that video. If you've ever seen the video outside Bristol Bar, it's just hilarious. The wee guy with the wheel. Joe Pasquale, he's got the high-pitched voice, and they've just been humped with Celtic, and they're getting all annoyed because Celtic players wear tracksuits before the game. And that's basically we lost the game, but we looked dead smart. That's the sort of mentality, clutching for a straw. That sort of idea. So are you concerned at all, Hector? Because I watched them last week against Hibs in the defence. Apparently Goldson's back for the Aberdeen game tomorrow, but they still look terrible at the back.
I'm not naive enough, Desi, to write them off because they were dreadful. Their performances were dreadful. Van Bronckhorst, they really were. It was like watching paint dry whenever I've seen their games on the TV. So I'd expect them to improve. Maybe not immediately. Maybe this season might come. Let's be honest, we're almost halfway through the season, aren't we? And we're in a really good position. But I wouldn't write them off kind of over the next 2 or 3 seasons. No, not yet. Because there's only two shows in town. It's us and them. And all it takes is them to get in a good run. And it puts pressure. It builds pressure, as we know from recent events. So I wouldn't write them off just yet. We're strong favourites. We will be. We should be. But not just yet. As long as Ange is there, I'm quietly confident that we'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. And Monty, you just touched on the finances. Last word. I noticed Ryan Kent was really trying to get on the ball against Hibs, which was a big shock compared to his Giovanni form. Do you think that could have anything to do with the fact the window opens in a fortnight? Or has he just been reborn under Michael, as per the headlines?
I think your first point, him and there'll be 3 or 4 of them who just want to go, and up to 2 or 3 who are just at the end of their cycle, as in game over for the likes of McGregor and Davies, who's injured, I think, now as well. They'll stick with the core nucleus that they have. I think Kent, if they could get $1 million or 2 for him in January, they'll take it. Same with Morelos. And I think both players would go. I doubt very much Beale is going to convince either of the two of them. Again, unless football isn't the most financially stable environment. Do you know what I mean? If you tell a guy, sign here and I'll sell you in the summer and we'll give you a going away bonus in the summer, some of them will take it if the contract's sound enough and their agent's smart enough. But for Kent and Morelos, who can go on a free, talk to other players in January, pick up the entire signing bonus themselves, plus decent, probably better wages down in England, or even in Turkey, where I think they're being linked to. I think it's just shop window stuff, Desi. I doubt very much that he's there. Although Beale, to Hector's earlier point, I'd never heard the man speak until last Thursday night. Never fucking heard the word the man spoke. And wide boy geezer, yeah. He has that same type of arrogance as Gerrard, but without a track record. And Gerrard's track record, I'm certain, carried that. Like I found out in Villa after a while. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule him out. But I think there's a huge gap between being a head coach and being a manager. Yeah. And I think this guy's going to learn the hard way. I think he's smart to be filtered. Do you know what I mean?
I can't remember if it was Jim Duffy or what, somebody else, or Gordale, whatever, on Clyde's super scoreboard that week, just the last thought on Beale, and they said the exact same. It's a totally different job to be a head coach and to be a manager, because the difference is the head coach, you can say good night to the players, knowing you'll see those players next day, and you'll have your drills and that ready, you'll get your programme ready, that's fine. If your programme's not impacted by anything else, as soon as you finish for the day, you're finished. If you're a manager, your job's with you all the time. You know, like every night, every moment, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, all you're thinking about is that team and your performances in the club and results and all the pressure. So again, it will be interesting. It could all work out fine, we'll wait and see. But again, that fan base is not the best at being patient and accepted. And I mean, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
they put him off at half time.
From the most, we've had this conversation quite a lot over the years. How do they approach the New Year's game? Both managers approach. Celtic will just be Celtic, but like Celtic don't need to lose. All Celtic need to do is no lose. Rangers have to win. So that way, so again, that's pressure straight away. So that'll be interesting.
Well, we're not going to change. And the beauty of it is, this is where Bale actually does have a strength, because if you look at how he set up his teams against, I guess, Lennon's team, you know, it had kind of sussed, or Rodgers, he kind of was figuring it out towards the end. He set up a system that, from a purely tactical football perspective, will be set up to defeat Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
But in real terms, this is the old classic. We're a year and a half, almost 2 years ahead of his cycle. And it looks like we've got a manager who isn't just working on a 2 year, 3 year, and then a flip, that he's planning for the next 3 years and probably the next 2 cycles. So it's on them. But, you know, I always default to the same 2 words about them. Fuck them. We're all right. We're in a really good place. Fuck them.
You've always got to be mindful of what's happening. There's only one team that can stop us, right? And just always keep an eye on them, and don't get too recent history. Don't get too overboard about things, right? Just try and remain a wee bit humble sometimes. Just keep the feet on the ground, and you know, that's just my old man view on things, right?
No, you're right. What I mean by fuck them is we don't need to concentrate on them, but you're absolutely right, Hector. You know, we probably spent too much time talking on them already.
That's his fault. He's obsessed.
I can't help that. I just like a man in a nice shoe. That's all. I mean,
who doesn't like a nice pair of brown groves?
Exactly. Okay. That's Lawwell and BealeBalls out of the way. So we'll wait and see what happens. It could be interesting anyway. Right, let's move on to the major talking point of tonight's podcast, and that, Hector, has been the World Cup, the Qatar World Cup 2022. How much did you enjoy it? I'll give you an open floor. You can discuss it from any aspect you like. How much did you enjoy it, Hector?
First round was pretty poor. first round of fixtures, but that tends to be the case with teams trying not to lose the first game. Then after that, it just get better and better. And the time it got to the knockout stages, and it was hard to pick out a poor game. And I think what made it, we're only talking about football terms. We could talk all night about everything else that was non-football to do with that, but just purely football.
Okay, Gary Neville, let it go.
Aye, but it was what was great about it was so many of the shocks and surprises that you tend to get the odd one or two, and even when Argentina won it, they lost to Saudi 2-1. Germany losing to Japan. Japan also beating Spain. It was just, it didn't stop. Then we got to the knockouts. But I think what was really interesting, when it got to the last 8, you know where I'm going with this one, right? Got to the last 8, and England's got there. But it seemed a draw. The group they had in their last 16 opponent, if they didn't get to the last 8, it'd been an absolute shock.
Yeah.
And they played their first decent opponent who I thought were well below par, and they still lost. And for us up here, for most of us, that's just a release of pressure, thank fuck. Because then, put them to the back burner again. Then we got to the final 4, and this was quite unusual. You get to the last 4, and normally there's like one strong team you like and others you don't really care about. But I found myself thinking, I wanted Argentina from the start because of Messi, which we spoke about before. But I like Croatia. I like how Croatia do things. I like the fact they knocked Brazil out, such a small population. They got to the World Cup final the last time. I thought they were hard done by with that ridiculous penalty France got against them in Russia. And then Morocco, who were just absolutely sensational. So it built and it built and it built. And the time it got to the final, you're always that wee bit worried that it could be a damp squib. It's a final, nerves might take over. And it was the absolute opposite. It was Argentina's first half performance was as good, I think, a 45 minutes as you'll ever see at that level. Their midfield, their tactics, they bullied France to bits. They were first, second and third to every ball. And that desire, that passion, which we say, they're all multimillionaires now, but sometimes when it gets to this level, it's not just that, it's about your desire, about how much you want it. And that was the case all the way up to that penalty France got for 75 minutes. First mistake by Argentina. It was a pen, and it shows you the beauty of football. Within a couple of minutes, another unbelievable goal. And although I wanted Argentina to win, I felt myself shouting yes when Mbappe equalised. Yeah. And then you thought there's only one winner here. You thought France are going to win in 90 minutes. Argentina looked as if their game was shot. They were gone. They clung on. And in extra time, Argentina were the stronger team again. And they took it back to them. And it's interesting. We're talking about this before the podcast. And then they went 3-2 up. Then France get the penalty again. But I felt exhausted watching that game. I'm sitting here, and my youngest boy, he's 17, he's there.
I thought you were going to sit pajamas there.
in my parlour.
But probably like the rest of the world, we're kicking every ball, especially in extra time, jumping up, come on, oh. And I actually I haven't felt like that in a game not involving my own team, I think, ever. We're so emotionally involved in it for a number of reasons. And then I suppose from a purist football sense, we probably got the ending that was just for Messi. Because Messi's just somebody that we talk about being humble. He comes across as a kind of guy who just does his business on the pitch. And he's great to watch. And the Maradona legacy and then the Messi, him being the second coming of Diego, it just was fitting it ended that way. And also fitting that Mbappe would get a hat-trick. To take, and the baton goes to him now at 23 to take it on. So it ticked every box, Daisy. I know it ticked every box I think that I wanted on the field from a World Cup perspective. It was sensational.
Yeah, thing, mate. They said I was tweeting yesterday too, exhausted. I had an actual sore jaw for just the tension. It wasn't like shouting at it, but it was just like tension watching the game. Like you're sitting going, wow, but you could feel yourself poor, stressed out. I mean, it was unbelievable watch. Again, especially the fact that it had been say 70 minutes after the 2 goals. It was all Argentina. As you were you'd been tweeting saying Argentina are basically dominating, suffocating France. And there was a quite interesting, a few tactical people were highlighting that Get France Football, and they were highlighting how Argentina were concentrating on their work and their bottom left. So they were all, every time they lost the ball, it was as far as possible as it could be away from Mbappe.
Yeah.
So they were basically nullifying the ball ever getting to Mbappe. No way they weren't taking it towards him in case they lost it to him.
How clever is that? Right?
But that's right. Like the Argentina manager Scaloni, he was managing the equivalent of Shettleston juniors.
Yep, 6 years ago.
I mean, unbelievable. Literally the junior manager in Spain before they get Argentina. Argentina, and that was this really a makeshift job to keep the Messis happy because they couldn't really find a big enough name to step in. And then he managed to find a team. Again, it's like the old Jimmy. It reminded me of Jimmy Johnston, Barcelona, kind of talking about Messi and that. Basically, everybody else wins the ball and makes opportunities for Messi to maximise the opportunity. Win the ball, give him the ball. No, that way, your job as a teammate is to help him. And like, a couple of guys were doing all the running. Cause have you seen the guy in Neville quote? Actually, I was thinking of you, Monty. You see the guy in Neville quote at the start. This is people making predictions at the start of a World Cup when they really shouldn't. And guy, after the Saudi Arabia game, Guy Neville says, "Look at Messi walking around there. His arms down. He's not even breaking a sweat. This is not the old Messi. This new Messi, he's hopeless. He's no use to anybody or that, and like total jumping in first." And it reminded me of certain somebody. Hector, can you remember what your predictions were?
Just before you went on, I'm glad you brought it up because I've been backing them to the hilt from the start of the tournament. Now, they were my number one pick. And I did point out that they had a guy wearing number 10 who I thought, fuck, there's a player in there. Like, he could end up, and hey, a player of the tournament.
So
this is, I put my hands up and I defer to Hector's.
Remember, the last podcast, we look forward. And Monty now, you may have heard me earlier ask Monty which country he's in because there's a polyglot. He does jump about the nations like some sort of drunk cartel aficionado. But he took Portugal on his beloved Brazil, saying they were different gravy. And he said he would like to. He did say he would like to see Argentina win it for the Messi legacy. But according to you, and I quote, "Let's be honest, lads, Argentina are shite. They're no one anything."
Game, would you have argued with me?
Put 30 quid on Argentina.
No, Des, as you know, I'm not a gambling man at all. But I got your Gary Neville and everything else. We've all watched that first game. And Messi's 35-year-old, and obviously he's went to PSG, and he's I think this season he's been decent. Previous season, though, he just wasn't himself. So I got the cause for concern about him. But that made it even better. Yeah. The fact that he just, he raised his own game. I've never seen a player who tends to do little until it matters. Yeah. And he just pounces on the ball, doesn't he? He finds a wee yard of space or 5 yards of space by doing little. Then he just comes to life, and the team comes to life. And as you say, they're all scrappers and fighters. I think we're underestimating. These are good football players, right? Very good football players. Maybe not world class in their positions, but they're very good. They're a proper team. In fact, they remind me of, as a team, the Italy team that won the 82 World Cup as a team. Whereas the sum of their parts was greater than the individuals apart from one. Well, apart from two, because their keeper must get a hell of a mention for.
Oh, yeah.
See that very last kick of the ball, or second last kick of the ball, that save he made? Yeah. That save that stopped France winning the World Cup. That's one of the greatest saves I think you'll ever, considering the event, World Cup final, last kick of the ball. But the beauty of that game was 5 seconds later, Argentina had a header, with the worst header ever in a World Cup final, getting in the corner flag to win it. Right.
And it was the 119th and the 120th fucking minute of probably the best game.
Yeah, there was 10 seconds between each ball.
But Desi, there's one thing, and I'd mentioned it briefly on Twitter, but we spoke about this before, Celtic's European campaign. And this is why the likes of Argentina and that, they've got the Messi, they've got some fabulous players, but they've also got this professional ruthlessness about them at times, these good teams. You know, we'll come with this one. Yeah. Acuna, France are breaking. Probably a 3v2.
I can hear you applauding from the south.
I fucking stood up. Punch him
down.
And it's not that. He missed him the first time. And the second time he went, "I'm having you." And I just thought, That's what you need. And Celtic, and I love Hans, he's a purist. He's a purist. But there's a professional side of things where you take a yellow high up the pitch and stop every...
I might used to be known as a nice guy, Tim.
Oh, man. But, you know, to win, you've got to do the dirty side of things.
I have a funny
and if I didn't do that, by the way France were playing, a 3v2, there's a strong chance they'd win the World Cup. So it's just the little things, but just, you know, do it.
I have a funny feeling that we're evolving to be that under him, because he's not, as purist as he is.
Who do you see in our midfield doing that?
John Kennedy.
I think that's nice. Hatati would pick the guy up and shake his hand. Matt O'Reilly.
Maeda's got a fucking little nasty streak in him. Watch him now. Maeda.
A cloud bouncing off a skyscraper, let's be honest.
But here, I wanted to pick up on something.
He'll go buy the guy a pint.
Highlight, I'll come back to you, Monty. I just like to quickly highlight. After that Saudi Arabia game, the Saudi Arabia manager, who's called Hervé Renard, French for Fox, said, I just want to highlight that for no apparent reason. Hervé Renard said, we have just beaten Argentina, but Argentina will go and win this tournament. He knew, right? He stated there and then, Mr. Fox knew there and then who was going to win it.
It's good to know there's a clever fox out there, isn't there?
There's always an exception to everything.
A cunning fox. Who'd have thought,
But here, there's a really interesting point that Hector made that I wanted to jump in on. That notion of how Messi took that entire pressure and pulled that team, after that first result, pulled that team through basically to winning a World Cup. Like he broke through a mental ceiling, if you can call it that. But the reason why, the spark that went off in my head, there's a fantastic video clip of different code, Ronan O'Gara, who was one of Ireland's greatest rugby players. And there's a fantastic interview with him talking about the mental side of eventually becoming fucking ice in your veins, top tier. I'm going to break through and I'm going to win it. And O'Gara was Ireland's kicker. And when he played for, I think it was Northampton or one of those other teams, he said for years he was fucking terrified that in the last few minutes, don't score, don't leave me with a kick. Because the pressure of that was so fucking heavy. He said something happened in the really later stages of his career, and it was a very successful career, where he grew to love it. He broke through the mental ceiling, where it got now to the point where he's going, lads, go on, fucking score a try, give me a chance. All I want is one kick. Now think of the pressure of a kicker in rugby, carrying an entire nation's weight on that. And O'Gara won Ireland a Grand Slam with a drop kick in Wales. First one in fuck knows how long. But Messi carried the weight of an entire nation after a defeat like that, which is even fucking worse. So whatever spark happened there. And Scaloni, no one talks about their manager yet, and I think there'll be books written about this guy and how the fuck he's done what he's done in 6 years. The other side of it too, the young fella who scored the winning penalty for Argentina was the guy who was penalised for the penalty in the 117th, 118th minute. And I remember watching him coming up, and when I seen him turn around and seen the guy's name in the back, I went, oh fuck, not you. Oh Jesus, no. Just thinking, like, even me sitting on the couch going, what must be going through him? And he just had that look in his eye. And I didn't know whether it was fear or just, I'm fucking doing this. But he spanked, arguably, the most important penalty anyway, it was late. But one of the better penalties of that penalty shootout, because Dybala was very lucky as well. Dybala passed it down the middle. Keeper nearly got it with his foot.
Here's a question.
The mental side of what Messi has done is
here's a question for both of you, right? We'd mentioned the semi-finals, and two nations got there. Very, very different population sizes, but very different sort of approaches and backgrounds, if you like. So we had Croatia, who got to the last World Cup final. Sensational. Their best player, 37. Sensational. They've got their third World Cup semi-final since they got their independence. And a population of about 3.5 million. Right? Then you've got Morocco, the first ever World Cup semi-final. But very different ways of playing. Looking at those teams and who they're up against in terms of tradition, history, populations, football heritage, yada yada, Is there anything watching Croatia and Morocco you'd like to see Ange incorporate the Celtic for Europe? Or would you say no, just do what you're doing? Because how they play and approach is very different from how Ange approaches it.
I'll go first very briefly. Morocco's fitness levels were off the chart. Off the fucking chart. Morocco's ability to move with the ball at speed and their ability to cover space with speed is just for watching. I only got to watch them twice. I missed the game that they put Portugal out. I was actually not playing. I got watching the highlights at night because you'd mentioned, Hector, that Morocco were just brilliant. Fucking hell. Work rate, speed, agility. If you could infuse that into Postecoglou's team with the accuracy, Jesus.
But the point is with them, they sat in their own half.
That's what I was going to say. They were one of the best defence at the World Cup. I mean, I think in the last 10 games or something, they've let in a couple of goals realistically. But again, I was going to say, there's a wee slight other side of that, and it's like what the teams did today very well. Like Argentina, as soon as they get attacked, like the Holland game and the French game, 25 yards out for their own goal, they were like panic stations. I mean, when the pressure came, they kind of were really struggling. They had like 2 goals in 5 minutes in each of the games, so there was issues whereby there was. I seen quite a bit of Celtic in Argentina. There was chances to kill that game on Sunday, and they didn't take it. Not where I'm like, this gets Celtic a bit nor it. That one, your guy was through and puts it by the post, and this tiny wee seconds where things can totally change and you can look great in Europe and then we look foolish. That kind of idea. Again, personnel-wise, I think we'll come on to that in a second, but there's still room for us to have bigger, stronger physicality.
Morocco, we're all athletes.
That's what I did, but like, physicality, the guy that can put an attack on, rather than having to shoulder the guy below the shoulder, you can actually go shoulder to shoulder. Maeda is a great nuisance, Monty, we've talked about, but he's still lightweight compared to the 6'2" midfielder he's up against. No, that's the idea.
That's you just reminded me of something else that I wanted to mention about the final, and it's about Deschamps' bravery in his substitutions. Fucking balls of steel to do that. But the physicality that he brought on with those younger players, totally to your point, Desi, it totally upset Argentina's rhythm. The Thuram's young fella up front, the other young fella, big, the one who had that chance.
What's the Kingsley?
Coman from Bayern Munich.
Throwing the ball back off Messi. Just pulled Messi off it.
But the thing is, with those three, and then you look at their midfield, they brought on Camavinga as well, who played against us. You look at Tchouameni. There are 5, 6 foot plus, incredibly athletic, fast, technical. That's a bracket that we can't afford to buy. We just can't. That's your 20 million.
But that's why sorry, you've actually brought it to the perfect why I asked the question. If you look at Morocco, and to a large degree, Croatia, bar one or two, but to a large degree, Croatia.
Yep.
Morocco beat Belgium in the group stages. Fully deserved to beat. I think it was 2-0. Fully deserved to beat them. They knocked out Spain. They knocked out Portugal. And they actually showed another part of their game when France went up and they took the game to France and they deserved at least a draw in extra time in that game. Croatia knocked out Brazil, albeit the Cadavis a slice of luck, but who doesn't at that point? So my point's this though. If Morocco, for me, is a sort of a comparable terms for us going to the Champions League, right? It's like Morocco at the World Cup. You're playing against teams you shouldn't have a chance against. And yet they demonstrated they could do it. Not just once as a fluke, 3 times. Yeah. So, should we be looking at Morocco and how they play as an example because you mentioned the athleticism, the speed, how they broke at pace. Yeah. Should we not look at that and try and marry that to somebody who Ange's trying to do it, or is it just a case of not forgetting it? Because Ange's got a template and that's it.
Well, I think we're blinded by the fact that Morocco, if you look at the teams that those boys play for, Hector, by and large, they're top-tier teams. There's a reason that Ziyech is at fucking Chelsea. Hakimi, who was the right back of the World Cup ahead of Juranovic, is at PSG. That big midfielder, Abelar or something like that, fucking Rolls Royce of a midfielder. He's going to go to I think Barcelona.
But it's weird. But it's where they are just. Sorry, it's where they are just now. You mentioned what I'm doing. I get that. I understand why you've done that. I mean? Totally. But the rest, I mean, it was the sum of all their efforts. Right. And I just think I get it domestically. Domestically, we have no excuse. Unlike Goodwin, whatever, we go for it. We play a certain brand of football. But surely we've got to be a bit more creative. About how we approach things. I mentioned a bit more cynical when it comes to taking a yellow high up the pitch. Things we don't do, which we should be doing without a second glance next season. Should we be looking to tweak how we approach games, particularly away from home in Europe? Perhaps bringing teams on and being more physical and pace to counter-attack at pace. I'm throwing it out there because we all want success. We want us to get through the group stages. Can we do it? Of course we can, but are we going to do it playing the way we're playing right now? I hope so. But
if you think, we may have already started by actually signing an Argentinian player. You know what I mean? So we may get a wee bit of his gamesmanship once Bernabé starts to get a game. So that may start to be an influence. And famously always disregards the referee, you know, that kind of idea. He'd rather win it on the ball and 11v11, so to speak, and actually you come out winning football style. I don't know. I think it's a wee bit apples and oranges, club football and international football. But obviously you can make a comparison. But I think you just have to. Andy's got his way of playing, and that's going to be that regardless. Not even talking about Rangers there. We don't need to beat Rangers in January. We just don't need. If we don't lose, we're still just keep jabbing. Just keep them at a jabbing distance. But again, Andy will go out and play three up front. No be any need to play 4 in the middle of the pitch or 5 in the middle of the pitch and kill the game. That kind of idea. It'll just be what it is. You know what I mean? There'll be no game by game. It's season by season.
There's a crossover, Desi, that I think, in fairness to Jim Goodwin, right? Bear with me. There's a crossover in terms of what I think he's done. And if you look at Aberdeen's home record up to this point, you know, equal to, you know, just slightly inferior to ours. You know, they'd only lost 1 up until they played us. He basically has restructured that team, but he's made them hard to beat. He's also stuck 2 up top. You're decent enough footballers, but they just, in that system that they played against us, they were never getting a sniff. So Goodwin's took an approach to build a team that can defend first and then be expansive after that. Postecoglou seems to be the opposite. We're going to go and learn how to attack. Because it's easier to tweak something like that than it is to build from a defensive structure and become this free-flowing thing. So our defence starts with the press and the work rate of a front 3. We don't have the cuteness or the streetwiseness yet, but if that comes, we're not going to get caught on the break so much. And that's easy stuff like that. You don't coach dark arts. You just show people if he goes fucking past you, pull him down. You know, when it comes naturally inside that structure. So I think it's a philosophical thing. I agree that we'll set up Livy Wednesday night. We'll set up St. Johnston. We'll set up at Ibrox. We'll set up exactly the same fucking way. When it comes to Europe, I would love us to still be able to do that. And I think if we just add that bit of streetwise cuteness, dark arts, I think we'll be very, very all right. Building it from the opposite direction up, you know, Goodwin can now play a normal system. His team have proven that for 87 fucking minutes, and other than a 25-yard crack and strike, they could hold us out. There's absolutely no reason why they can't hold anybody else out in the league. Mm-hmm. So it's a philosophical thing. I think the flack that he's taken at the minute is totally unjust. I think there's a desire for them somehow to come out all fucking gung-ho tomorrow night. He won't, but he will have a go at them. But on the other side, to Hector's point, that wee bit of streetwise cuteness, but we're never going to get the physicality. We can't afford those players, or maybe we can find them, and maybe that's our next cycle of recruitment. But if you strip that back, that wee bit of streetwise cuteness off the back of how we attack and how we play, it could be onto something really good.
Yeah, right. So, well, interesting. It's a very good question, Hector. And there was even interesting things were getting highlighted yesterday. The Scaloni was the first manager to make Griezmann playing in midfield a problem for France rather than a bonus for France by neutralising these sort of things. But let's move on to the 4 Celts at the World Cup. How much did you enjoy their performances, Hector?
I think they all Well, to a different degree, they all did well. They all qualified to the last 16, which was
Johnston didn't.
Well, I suppose he
Well,
wasn't.
that's the fifth. I was coming on to that. That's the fifth.
He wasn't signed at that point. But I mean, Australia was phenomenal just to get there again. And Mooy probably looked like their best player. To be honest with you, I thought he was really impressive. Carla Vickers only got the one game, albeit it was an important game when they won to qualify for the last 16, didn't they?
Yep.
They won it. Yeah, they won one.
Yeah. And he only played them that game, weirdly enough, which didn't make much sense. So he was good, and we've obviously spoke about Maeda getting a goal, played 2 of the games, did okay, got his goal. Maeda's Maeda, isn't he? He does good things, other things you think he hasn't kicked the ball before, but he puts a hell of a shift in, which you can see the benefit of him. Then Juranovic was the star of the show, let's be honest about it, which helped us because even before the World Cup, the word was that we're looking to sell him and move him on and try and make some cash when he was in the shop window. So it couldn't have worked out better for Juranovic and for Celtic, I suppose, but he was excellent. Against Brazil, his performance against them, I didn't realise he had that sort of performance in him. He took his game to a different level that day, and against Vinicius was just, they got him subbed.
Exactly.
It was tremendous. So delighted for all of them. I thought they all did really well. I wish Juranovic, it looks like he's definitely going. I wish him all the best. He came in for a pittance, football terms, 2 million. We might get 10 times that, right? I mean, and the guy just seemed like a good guy. He gave his best. So wish him well. Hope he does well. Yeah, delighted with them all, to be honest with you.
Yep, and then Monty, you mentioned Alistar Johnston there. Imagine Celtic signing a former Rangers director. That was a bit of a shock.
Apparently his folks are from the north, and with a name like that, he obviously kicks with the other foot. So I'm sure there'll not be a big clamour from either his dad's side or his mum's side for tickets for Celtic Park, or maybe they will be. He was really impressive. He was really, really impressive.
I was just going to, Daisy. We'd mentioned about physicality and pace and power. Yeah. He's the one signing, and I'm not going to think about the next few weeks, but over the next 2-3 seasons, he's the one signing that ticks a big box for me in terms of his pace is electric. He's aggressive in the right way. He's up and down. His energy is really off the charts. And I'm thinking, if he can be as good for us or better than he showed with them, crikey, that's a player.
Yeah. There's our word from the suburbs tonight, folks. Crikey.
When we move Greg Taylor on for 25 million to Espanyol and Kieran Tierney comes back, then could you imagine that back four? But that you're absolutely bang on the money. We grazed around it for a while. Physicality, athleticism. He's a big boy. He's no problem getting wired in as well. And we've talked about it on a couple of podcasts. The mentality of the player that Postecoglou signs. This guy comes from an ice hockey background. Loves the dark arts. Fucking loves getting wired.
Slapshot. Huh? Slapshot. Remember Slapshot movie?
So you've got a guy who has no fucking problem at all getting wired in, has all the physical attributes, and was a really, really top performer at the World Cup. We got him for 3 million. Jesus, lads, it's football games.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we'll touch where he settles in, but as you mentioned, Hector, we're wanting to give him at least the next 5 months to settle in. If he's
5 minutes, his debut, Desi.
Out. Johnston dropped. Bring back Ralston. You know what I mean?
Ralston was absolutely superb at Pittodrie.
No, come on now. Let's no stretch. I know you're on the Spade Town lager there, but I think you're stretching.
Other lagers are available.
I don't know. I don't know. I try not to be too cynical with Anthony Ralston, but sometimes you just watch. Like, there was one point where the guy ran round the other side of him, and I'm like, sure, how can you not see him? He's right next to you. How can you not see it anyway? But by the by, let's concentrate on the World Cup. During the World Cup, Hector, we also bought Yuki Kobeyashi, a left-sided central defender. Celtic actually buying defenders before the window. What's the chance of that?
I wish I could tell you a lot about this guy, Desi.
You're always in the Japanese football folk.
I just, even looking at clips, it looks, okay, YouTube, and you can put some of that together. It looks kind of what you'd expect from a centre-half over there. technique looks very good, but this is all YouTube clips. But he's very young. I think he's one of those ones that probably does fall under the project banner. He's a free transfer as well. So I think he's more one for, at the very earliest, next season. Bring him in for a few months. That seems to be the Ange pattern. And we bring players in for a few months in preparation for the following, phase of football 6 months later. So hope he does well.
Was Obligar on the bench on Saturday?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I'm just looking up here. Kobeyashi did play in the under-20s World Cup, and he played 56 games for VZL Kobe in the last 5 years. I don't know what, but the last couple of years I think he's been a regular. So, but again, fingers crossed he settles in, gets his Costco card, and manages to.
We're heavily linked with the Tunisian centre midfielder who played against us for Ferencváros the previous year, and he was really, really good. And a centre mid, a 6'8", but a bit of a tank, 6'8" with energy.
But maybe we may have missed the North African market with the Morocco interest. No, that way that was one of the ones to maybe get done before the actual World Cup.
We have a few links to Ferencváros. I don't know why. That guy Ryan May, this striker, has been linked with us repeatedly since we played them in the Champions League or in the whatever Europa League.
Yeah.
Now we're being linked to this guy. You don't know how much of it's lazy or otherwise, but they fit the profile, they fit the money. Welsh will probably go, I think.
They're up with Porto today, weren't they?
He's getting linked with some great teams.
Exactly. That was something.
I mean, I've actually hardly seen the boy have a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest,
I think it's the reverse. If you look at the profile, remember they always talked about the profile, certainly in Rodgers' days, has played 50 games, is in their early 20s, has all the attributes, take a chance on him, develop him, sell him on. I think we're just getting the reverse done on us with Welsh. He's Scotland under-20s captain, wasn't he? I read that today somewhere. The captain Scotland at that level has done very well. He hasn't really done much wrong at Celtic, but you can see that there's development in him. A fair bit of development in him. And I think you got to accept that, his yen's going to stay. We have an option to buy him. Maybe we won't, and the Japanese boy will take his place. I think it's just part of how Postecoglou works that we'll turn people over. Would Welsh be a loss, Desi? Do you think?
They don't know if Postecoglou seems to also be a 110% commitment in training as well as the games, so you don't know what he's seeing or he's getting reported back. But again, it's like, as far as I can tell, Stephen Welsh's problem is he isn't another player. He isn't like Carter Vickers, or he isn't something. He isn't this superstar defender. He just goes on and does his best. He's like the equivalent of Anthony Ralston. Just goes on and does his best, and doesn't he can't become a superstar overnight, so to speak, but he gives you a 6.5 out of 10 almost every game. Seldom makes a clearly obvious mistake, like Mitch Hector obviously always sees in Starfield, etc. But that idea, you never see Welsh having those sort of calamities. Yet people just don't seem to take them for some reason, because I don't think he's that 6 million signing from Fulham or whatever. I mean, I don't understand it myself. Kind of strange. But again, if maybe we're bringing in this left-sided defender, and then that would maybe give a wee bit more balance and give a wee bit better approach to bring the ball out. But bringing the ball out is fine. But in Scotland, when you get teams like Aberdeen with 10 players literally on the 30-yard line, how far is that central defender going to bring the ball? We could just try to keep higher if that was the case back in the day.
Starfield's not naturally left-sided, sure he's not.
No.
He's not getting the game before you.
Decided.
By the way, I did notice Desi slagging the poor guy's running style the other day.
Just because I commented.
That's harsh.
You've been against Swedish players for at least 5 years.
At least I criticise his shite passing or shite head on the ball. You actually poor guy's running style, you're slaughtering him.
All I said for anyone that missed on Twitter was, Carlo Starfeld has got a running style of a man who has been caught between bus stops as a 75 bus comes over a hill. That was all right. It wasn't derogatory. It may not be complimentary, but that's all I said. That wee shuffle with the shoulders and the head down. Right. What time you getting on?
By the way, just on it, he rarely gets caught for pace.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone who's really burnt them, even in the Champions League. So maybe he is wrong.
Did they play in the Champions League?
Hector's trying to...
Right, no, Europe. Sorry, he didn't play in the Champions League.
Right, okay, right. Last thing on the World Cup. Your best moments / goals / laughs, apart from Monty saying Argentina are shite before the tournament. Any thoughts? What was your favourite goal in the World Cup, Hector?
Argentina's second in the final.
Oh,
that was 6 players involved, and 5 of the 6 players a one-touch pass at pace, and the only player that took 2 touches was Messi. The first to control it back to go on the halfway line, and the second to do a fantastic flick straight into the running path of his teammate. For me, that was the goal, not just of the tournament, one of the best goals of the World Cup I've seen.
Okay, what about you, Monty?
Hard to disagree with that.
Go on. I'm going to.
Okay.
I've got my funny moment, Daisy, but I'll let Monty answer.
You know what? I'm actually struggling. I'm struggling to Giroud's header purely for the release of tension.
Okay, my favorite
goal. No, sorry. I'm with Hector. That was a goal. That was a thing of beauty. That's Hector.
Yeah, it was. That was a beautiful footballing goal, which I believe my contender beats purely for pure invention. And it was Holland's free kick against Argentina. That was one of those moments. I had to call my daughter in to come and see it today. I'm like, hey, see this? It reminded me of the Celtic Rangers free kick in the World Cup final. Remember years ago, McClare? Just that wee moment of inspiration. Somebody went, and to do that in the last 10 seconds of a game, I mean, it was just, the balls to do that was some goner. That was a wonderful moment to capture. I was in the middle of hanging mirrors up at the time, so it was nice of me to get a wee minute of pause and then enjoy that. But that was my favourite goal with the whole tournament. And of course, Maeda's good to see me, Maeda getting a goal. You could have said that there, Monty, but obviously you don't like him anymore. You've moved on. Okay, so moment. The funny one.
I think we're all going to possibly come to the same answer here. Well, my number one has to be Harry Kane's second penalty against France. That's got to be. I mean, that is right up there, isn't it? It was a work of beauty from our Harry.
Where did you watch it? Did you watch it in the house or were you?
In the house. What
were you, Monty?
I just arrived in Portugal. I watched it in Portugal. So.
I was in a pub in town, Bar 91 in town, and sitting watching it. And not about one of the ones you go, that's a penalty. And then you see everybody's head go down, so to speak. And my wife was oblivious to it. She turned around and she always bets 2-1, right? So we had a tenner and 2-1 for her. So she turned around, she's like, I told you to cash it. I told you should have cashed it. And we're like, well, it's gone now, kind of thing. And then the thing when the penalty got announced, 2 guys have jumped up in the pub, right? Well, 2 guys and 2 lasses, but separately. The girls just get excited. They weren't caring about England, but the 2 guys were for England. And sure enough, as we moved in the pub, we ended up storming right next to him, the guy turns to me and goes, so then he misses the penalty and the whole place is erupted into it. It went mental. The guy's face, he's fuming. And he turns to me and goes, how do you think it will go now? But no way, I wasn't getting drawn in or anything. I'm just kind of laughing, ignoring you totally. And eventually the game went on and on. France, Giroud scores, and the final whistle goes, the 2 guys just kind of stand up and gently leave the pub, no, that way, as if that is that. It's time for us to go home. We are not partying in Glasgow tonight. So yeah, that was a lovely moment. Mine's would be, I was going to say, but did you see the coverage of the English, like, kind of beer garden stroke pubs at that penalty? It was like this just say Sheffield or somewhere in England, Manchester, 1,000 people watching the big screens, penalty announced, everybody's going crazy, pints going everywhere, everybody's celebrating, here we go, penalty missed, not right. Oh, it was just like a deadly calm. Suddenly, it was like you could see the coronavirus just going across the top. Oh, it was a shame. But again, I was a wee bit kind of detached, because as you say, Hector, the whole England thing, I don't know, I don't even understand why now. You might have read more into it, Monty. Like the whole England thing, they're talking about how great they've been, and how, like Hector's like, these a really easy draw. I knew they were talking about how Southgate can really take this team on. And I went, well, they're already going backwards. They've been to a final, and now they're going back to a quarters. And he's staying on now. Well, this looks a wee bit kind of, they're just too cosy. And with Harry Maguire, they were never winning anything with Harry Maguire in their defence.
I think someone put up a breakdown of the teams that they've beaten in knockout football. And it really isn't, they haven't really beaten top teams. They've got one or two standout results. But when it comes to knockout football and big tournaments, they just have that glass ceiling. Getting to the Euro final, and coming up against Italy in the way that they did, that was probably their peak, to your point, Desi.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was as far as Southgate could take them. But, I don't know. It's going to pain me to say it, but I have to be honest. They come across as a much more likeable bunch than they've previously had.
Yeah.
Southgate comes across as
the players.
Really, I look at Rashford and I think, what a fucking young man. A proper social conscience. A fucking really, really good young fella. And they're likeable.
Even young Saka too. He's much the same. And you see a lot of stuff he's done.
They're just wild, right? They're a good bunch of kids with a good manager.
But our issue
shouldn't be a problem.
But Monty, our issue has never been, or very rarely been, the players.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely the players, because we've always admired a lot of the players, like going way back, the Glenn Hoddles and the Shearers were all fantastic football players. Yeah. Absolutely great players. But our issue has always been, and actually a couple of friends who live here now from down south live here now, and they get it. Mm-hmm. England fans, they get it. They say, I get why you get so pissed when we listen to our guys, our media, our BBC News, our ITV News, number one story, number two story, and it just takes over. And they forget that you guys in Scotland and Wales and Ireland are watching, or they don't forget, they just don't care. Okay. And then even the likes of Lineker, I think Lineker's a cracking guy. Yeah. Lineker talks on just about every subject. The guy's got a heart of gold, he cares about community, he cares about people. When it comes to England and the World Cup, you go, it's as if they take a lobotomy. Something's just fucking done. And you go, how can reasonable, clever, sensible people become fucking so immune to what they're injecting us with this shit?
Yeah. The lack of self-awareness is summed up on the front of Private Eye magazine. I don't know if you buy it, but there's a photograph of fucking 6 England fans wearing Crusaders gear in Doha. And it's like, what a backward country. You
can't hear that here. What a backward country.
What a backward country. And I don't think you can, my problem is, you can't disaggregate what the fuckers have done to the planet for 800 years, right? You can't.
No, Lineker, he's a good man. What makes him become fucking mental when it comes to England?
But that national trait, like everybody, you guys get whipped up. You had your first tournament in fuck knows how long, and it was glorious and glorious failure, all that. We're the same. We're shite now. We've probably not taken out 20 years to get to a tournament. You get caught up in it, but the lack of self-awareness from normally seeing English people added to their history of empire, maybe. When you put it together, it's fucking toxic. And they're not. I watched footage of Buenos Aires.
But fuckwits are fuckwits. I'm not disputing that for once. We've got every country on the planet's got fuckwits. Right? Every country. We know. Glasgow's a lot of fucking right. We know, right? We've got a lot of fucking bombs. But this is clever, articulate, sensible, loving people. Nice people. A person you don't have to have as your neighbour. Right? And when I look at Lineker and I think, Gary, and he is by no means the worst. I mean, it takes over him. Even the final, Desi, I watched ITV because I couldn't listen to BBC. Right?
Yeah, the opposite. I couldn't listen to Lee Dixon. I had to flick over to the other.
But the good thing with ITV, they were drowned out though. It was great. All you could do was Argentina fans. You could hardly hear the commentators. But BBC, and I know he doesn't do the games. He's in the studio. I just think, Gary Lineker, a smashing, lovely fella, but it's almost quite jingoistic, which for him, you think, Desi, what do you think? See, I mean, it's not a genuine question, by the way. It's not a wind-up.
Yeah, no, the thing gets, like, again, nothing against England. We've all worked there a lot. We've all worked there. We all know loads of English folk, family, etc. As you say, it's the media, but it's bigger than the media, as you've highlighted there. It's the fact that they go from, okay, they never acknowledge the fact they've got an easy ride into every tournament these days. Every tournament. And then they've just been relegated in the Europa Nations by Hungary. You know, like, suddenly, like, you can see things are starting to fall apart. But as soon as you get that tournament, it's like, right, us and our 30 reporters and all our presenters will all go and we'll all just become this nation of cheerleaders. And then the delusions of grandeur start to set in. Wait a minute, we could win this. Have you ever seen a team play so well in their first game? And you're like, it's the fucking first game. Argentina get beaten the first game and won it. Let's not mean. So suddenly they go for 0. They're like a Ferrari, 0 to 60. They go for 0 to, we've won this in 90 minutes.
But they played America in the second game. America the better team.
So that's what I'm saying.
The
But then,
first half against Wales was arguably the worst 45 minutes of football in the entire World Cup.
I know that, but I'm saying, but they're oblivious to that. All they see now is, as soon as they've got that delusion pill swallowed, they're all in. They're all in. And then so I'm really surprised at how positive they've all been. After that, the fact that you get put in the quarters, you were rotten. You should have. You could have. Basically, they've come out with. We could have won that rather than before. But you're kind of going, wait a minute, this has changed. It used to be we should have won it. Now it's we could have won it. So they're trying to temper it, but you just know the next time it'll explode. This is just, I think this is just a fuse that's been lit now. They're trying to temper it, and then as soon as Southgate starts to have a bad result or two, then they'll start to turn on them. And that's why I thought he would have walked and waited for, like, say, an Everton or something like that, a decent wee 150 grand a week gig in the EPL. I still heard thoughts that Brendan Rodgers will at some point be an English manager. Maybe we get told that years ago. He was he was a shortlist one to do that.
Dare I say it?
He could get him over the line.
If Eddie Howe takes that job, dare I say it, right? He genuinely wouldn't want to settle for last day.
Yeah.
Southgate can't make changes. But we watched him against, it was crying out. He brings on Sterling, who fucking flew back to England for 4 days for a family emergency.
Yeah.
Flew back the day before the game and brings him on. And you go, fucking, he's mad.
But that's tournament mentality and tournament management mentality. That's different. And Scaloni, the Argentina manager, or was it, no, Martinez, their goalkeeper. Just when you're talking about, and we're trying to figure out where Jingo fits in it, he made a fucking brilliant jibe against France in a pre-match conference, or maybe it was the semi-final. And they read an article, and it was an article from Mbappe, a quote attributed to him, where he said, you know, in Europe, the reason why the last 4 World Cups have been won by European teams is that the standard of football, the standard of league, the standard of facilities, and basically the standards were so much better than the developing nations. And as such, Europe would always be, effectively, I'm paraphrasing what the guy said, Europe would always be at the forefront because we've just got more resources. And I thought, and it's been airbrushed out, by the way, and whether you like him or not, or whether you agree with a lot of what he said, because I thought a lot of what he said also was very trite. Infantino's opening speech was fucking brilliant. Because it's the first time in my lifetime that I can recall a white man of European descent called it out and said that Europe should be fucking apologising for the next 3,000 years for what it did for the first 3,000 years. Martinez didn't pick up on that, but he picked up on Mbappe's point and he said, really? You think so? You fucking think so? That we somehow don't have facilities? And we talked about Argentina having balls and drive and all that other, some of the parts, just fucking wanting it more. Even though I thought France's mentality was just completely different level. I think a lot of the arrogance, when we talk about the English, a lot of the arrogance comes down to the fact that they've got more money, they've got a richer league, and they have an environment that really should. It's Rocky IV, basically. It's fucking Dolph Lundgren against Rocky. They've got every resource you could imagine. They should be winning things. But they never will because they don't have heart and they don't have balls. And that's what fundamentally beat them. You look at Italy and how Italy beat them at the end in the European Championships. Just a team that wanted it more.
I would say they're more the Hulk Hogan Thunderlips. They've not really got that killer instinct. They're more Rocky. Was that Rocky 3? That would have been Rocky 3.
Rocky 3, yes.
I think an Eddie Howe or a Brendan Rodgers, they need somebody, they need a cynical, clinical manager. Southgate is a nice guy and all about lovely, and they can get him to score some nice goals. But that edge of saying, Harry Maguire, sorry mate, that's it. I mean, and he goes, no, but he's great for me. And you go, but that doesn't matter. As soon as somebody in that opposition team sees a Harry Maguire, Giroud knew he was going to get one header. So if I can make that one header, I'll make that head. No, that's the idea. And it's that point. Who my laughs, any laughs for you, Monty? I did make a wee note of Roy Keane stroke.
Morphing into Billy Connolly.
His new hair, his new facial hair.
God knows what's going on with that man. Fucking legend that he is. My funny moment was the shithousery of the Argentina team after they beat Holland. I fucking loved it. I just loved it. Get it right up, you shower bastard.
Did you see why? The shithousery of the Dutch team.
The Dutch guy's fucking brilliant.
Every penalty walking up with the guy with that was unbelievable.
Brilliant stuff. Proper sort of laughing out loud, even though it's so serious with the two nations involved. But I thought it was fucking brilliant. And the
one concerning thing I've got from it, the World Cup, is that it tends to be, they use the World Cup a lot of times to trial out things.
Yeah.
And then it filters its way through to domestic football. The one big concern I've got, particularly here, is the amount of added time.
I was going to say, you go back to the stops about half 8.
They just fucking threw out 9 minutes, and you're going a half. And there was no justification of the fucking 9 minutes. I would think this one's 9. Could you imagine that comes here? And by the way, that's what's going to fucking happen next, right? Because they do that first, and then, well, you know where I'm going with this one. It's not even us just being paranoid. It's a fact. Right, what is it? Right, 11 minutes. Yeah, let's make it 11 minutes. Fucking, then we get 2 minutes. A goal behind.
The Tims are 1-0 up and down to 9 men. Add 12 on.
and that's what's going to happen.
Rangers are getting beat 1-0 plus 14. You know what I mean?
There's something more serious than that, by the way, which we missed. VAR is working exactly as it's intended. Quote unquote SFA fucking VAR person, whoever he was. The handball at Ibrox last Thursday night for 2-1.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's not even, but it's the old classic. The easiest place to hide a crime is in plain sight. This isn't even, we talked about it, we're not paranoid enough, we talked about it in the last 3 podcasts. This isn't even in debate. It's not even up for debate. They're just doing it now. It was 2-1
to Hibs at the time.
2-1 to Hibs.
Aye, the game just restarted.
It's the most blatant. It fucking bounces off his arm.
Who was the VAR operator?
Oh no, I don't know. Sorry.
No clue. Don't matter. He's one of Hugh Dallas's fucking.
Did you get told that at any point during the World Cup who the VAR operator was?
They did. They showed it before every game. Showed you the room.
Did we get told? I never even noticed. I know, but
they told you the names of the officials in the VAR room, and they're all multinational. It wasn't just
Brazilians
would be the VAR from Mexico.
Scotland did something really quite unique. I'm saying unique. I don't know if it's unique. The first game at Tynecastle, remember the referee was that Nick Walsh, and the VAR operator was Stephen McLean. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Then it was maybe reversed.
And then the game we had the following week at Celtic Park, they reversed them.
No, it was not meant to be, and then they kept it. Something happened, so they had to keep it. The whole point was it was meant to be reversed because we've got a lack of keepers. It's crazy. Rather than taking the 6 months to train people in VAR and have one referee, have a VAR person, one referee overseeing all the games, so the guy can go, I need your expert opinion quickly here. We're using a referee per game. No, that way, so suddenly you need 20 referees a week.
See the handball at Ibrox, the handball that wasn't given.
Yeah.
Maybe I've missed it. I genuinely haven't gone looking for it. What was the upshot? Was there anything at all mentioned about why they didn't
No.
Apparently there's something in the Daily Record, but I never read it. Why the ball dropping out of the sky onto an outstretched arm between two players? It's literally that. His hands literally show.
And the ball literally bounces here.
I've seen it. But what I'm getting is, was there any comment?
No, move on, Timmy, move on.
Literally, it wasn't reviewed. They didn't review it. It just, as far as VAR was concerned, the referee hadn't made a blatant error. And this comes back to, you're not fucking paranoid enough, I promise you. The SFA didn't even invest in VAR. They invested in VAR Lite, which gives you even more outs. You know, vis-a-vis, Jota's perfectly fucking good goal at it's not even a monetary thing. The monetary thing's fucking easy because all the clubs are paying for it anyway. It's not the SFA paying for it. We're all paying for it. So whoever wins the league pays most, second pays out.
No, what I'm getting is if it's VAR Lite, I'm assuming it must be a cheaper version of...
Yeah, it only applies to certain scenarios. And
there's no goal line fucking technology. I mean, of all the things in football that you should have as your number one thing, is goal line technology.
Was it a goal? Was it not? Was it a penalty? Was it not? We don't even have to for that. But what you fucking do have, is the vagary and the grey area where these fuckers have always sought justification for being anti-Celtic. They now have a formal vehicle to be as fucking vague and as grey as they want. And I'm telling you, VAR is working exactly as it is intended. We're probably 12 points, or certainly 7 points, worse off in terms of our lead right now because of VAR decisions.
But there was nothing, our game at the weekend, or I know it was only the Hearts game, wasn't there, Ross County? They seemed to go quiet. Those 3 games, is that right? Was there anything come out of those 3 games at all? Because there seemed to be every weekend. There seemed to be almost every game, or most games had something, or at least one thing. But
I guarantee there'll be something tomorrow at Pataudry. I guarantee there'll be at least one penalty and one VAR crazy decision.
Maybe an interjection.
Will be raging it. Guaranteed.
Say Bernabei. Remember the ball hit his arm when he wasn't even fucking looking, or hit him kind of here.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the third last game, I think, for the break.
Dundee United.
And Costco took him off at half time just for fear because he got booked.
He was because Bernabei was losing. It was too temperamental. As basically,
he was fucking wound up with the
going crazy. I think he was trying to kill the ref. Let's be honest, they couldn't understand. Yeah. My laughter moment. I don't know if any of you saw it, but did you see the Croatian glamour girl? The girl who kept turning up to the games with the checkerboard dresses and the t-shirts, etc. That's beautiful.
What websites are you fucking on?
It'd be surprised what you can get in.
Does your wife know about this?
Well, my wife does have I was in Croatia for the last World Cup, so she does have a nice Croatian t-shirt. But no, there was like this Croatian glamour girl was turned up at all the games and basically turning heads, and that was one of the aspects. She's in this like Qatar. These meant to be these guys who are kind of this concentrating on the game and respectful, blah, blah, blah. And she's walking down the steps. And at one point, there's like 4 Arab guys in front of her. And then you see like the before and after photo. So the 4 guys are looking at the pitch. And she's this literally 1 step behind them on the side. And then at the next photo, she's taking 3 steps in front of them. And every one of them looked away for the pitch. To this bombshell, right? This beautiful hourglass figure. But the best thing is, there's a wee boy at the end of the row. His tongue is like a cartoon. His tongue's literally hanging out. He's got the iPad hanging down at his waist. He's no longer looking at the iPad. And that was a kind of wee me on internet. But the best thing was, about 5 rows behind him, there's this old pensioner who just happens to be caught. And you just see his eyes looking furtively. Trying not to get caught, but you can just see he's obviously been caught. And now she turned up at all the Croatia games. It was always the same sort of style photo. But it was just that wee boy dropping the iPad with basically the whole dog in the cartoon style, with the eyes on stalks and the tongue rolling. That was.
There's one thing you were talking that came to mind was in the final, in the presentation, was the Argentina goalkeeper getting the hand masturbating. In front of all the sheiks.
But I don't know what channel you're watching on. But I think I was BBC, and they're like, and there's with the Martinez wins the trophy, that's great, and he's done so well. Well, who was it? He was at Oxford or Oldham or some.
Oxford, it was Oxford, aye.
It came such a long way from Oxford. It's great to see him. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. no, there's no need, darling. There's no need for that. Alan Shearer, there's no need. There's really no need. And then the only my Twitter highlight of the tournament was Graham Souness' jacket watch. He was getting more and more like an old man up the Savoy every game. The jackets were getting brighter. The shirt was losing a button. The trainers, you could start to see the trainers under the desk. He just looked like a Monday night guy up in the Savoy.
They gradually pushed him to the side, didn't they? More and more. Him
and Keane having a fight. I know. I thought Monty would enjoy that. Him tell Keane he should keep his mouth shut now.
If you'd listen, you'd learn more. Souness has played that sort of villain. We have him on RTE a fair bit as well, or at least we did. And he plays up that sort of hard man, stern thing. And I don't mind Souness. I'm sure his EBTs.
He's Mr. Talksport now. He's going down that road, Talksport, the Nigel Farage road of this being an irritant. It's like Who Caves at the weekend. 10 minutes to go. Celtic have ran out of ideas. It's looking terrible. The same old. Goal flash. Celtic have scored. Well, Who Caves ever learned his lesson? But he knows he just keeps stirring that.
He's doing his job. He's getting people lined up to phone the open line. Angry.
That's it. For me talking about it, that's all you need. There's no such thing as bad publicity. You know what I mean?
What did Souness just a few weeks before the break started talking about? We should flatten Celtic Park and flatten Ibrox, build a 100,000-seater stadium and share it with us. And I'm going, he must have a book coming out. Or he must be doing something media-wise. Because the only reason these guys come out our statements is to get more people tuning in. What the fuck's he talking about next? And obviously he was a commentator.
Again, even like you can see that with the England team. I mean, the England team's now 19-year-olds and 20-year-old stars. So obviously that's going to have to start getting reflected in your Mika Richards, your Jermaine Genesis. Start to edge the older guys out. Even like Gary Lineker's like 60 odds now, so even he's going to end up moving aside. They're going to have to start bringing in the new guard realistically. Yeah. That was a World Cup. So that Qatar, I think, was a bigger success than we thought it was going to be, which was really good. And Hector, you did say as soon as it starts, people will buy into it. So well done there. Next stop, America, Mexico, and Canada. So we're going to go from an area the size of Fife to the whole American continent, bar South America. So
Daisy, if I'm fortunate enough to still be living in 3.5 years' time now, right? Because it's the winter one here, right? If I'm fortunate enough to still be around here in this wee planet of ours and still working away, I'm definitely going to that World Cup. I am definitely going to go to that World Cup for 2 or 3 weeks and take in some of the games.
Yeah,
I'm not going to miss this one.
Well, we've already checked the places out, so there's a few interesting ones, so it could be quite good. Mexico City, I think, would be a good place to see a World Cup game. I mean, if you could do the three countries in the one go, it would be quite interesting.
It's going to be a 48-team tournament as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Scotland against Ireland in New York would be a fantastic game.
It would be. Or Canada. Stick it up in Canada.
Exactly. No, but to be fair, we'll have the Sydney Cup too in that point, so we'll get something to look at.
Hey, imagine Scotland, England and New York. Seriously. Fuck. No, I know Ireland and England be a match, but Scotland, England and New York. Jesus fuck.
Boston. Put it in Boston. We'll fucking...
No, that'd be Ireland, England and Boston.
Ireland, England and Boston.
Fuck.
Sadly, the chances of Ireland and Scotland getting there are probably remote. I think it might be a bit early for Ireland and Scotland. We'll just be Scotland. We'll just meander. We'll still have Craig
We'll get to the playoffs.
We'll still have Craig Gordon 9 goals at 43 years of age.
I don't know, lads. I think you are too hard on yourselves. You've got a fucking really good nucleus of players playing at a good level now.
I think that's Daisy. Don't associate me with his negativity. I'm positive.
Okay, no, that brings on to my last subject. We've got a couple of minutes left. Christmas wishes then. There you go. You can always combine that with your Scotland desire.
Wait a minute. Did we not beat Aberdeen 1-0 the weekend?
Monty's already covered the Aberdeen game.
Okay.
We've not got time to cover that. But unless you'll get a quick minute or two you want to cover Aberdeen.
Callum McGregor. That's all I'm saying.
Captain, return of the Mac. So, yeah.
He had more passes than the Aberdeen team combined. That must be some sort of record.
No, well, to be fair, Key did set that record. Remember when he had more passes than the whole Rangers game? The whole Rangers team one time in a Rangers game.
He did that at Ibrox.
So that was... But I think Cal McGregor actually had more passes than the whole of the SPFL at the weekend. It was one of their records. You know what I mean?
What a player.
But the stats were unbelievable. And again, if you looked at the stats, it was like Celtic's shots 33 or whatever. And again, your Hugh Keevans were like, that's shocking, terrible, blah, blah, blah. Every shot had to be for like 25 yards because Aberdeen had camps, they had a fortress. I was saying they had barrels of tar. I mean, it was like that sort of old siege. It was shocking.
Can I just say though, Desi, right? I know we want to move on, but just very briefly on that. In the first half, I thought genuinely initially, I thought Goodwin was quite brave in the first half. And what I mean by that is, he left two players way up the pitch. They didn't come back. Usually you've got one left and one sits where McGregor sits. They didn't. And what they did was they brought Celtic to their 18, they're 20 yards out, and says, right, and if we can win the ball, Celtic tend to leave 2v2 at the back. And that was the game plan. In the first half, it almost once or twice, but then we kept the ball that well, they were fucked. They couldn't get out. But for him to do that initially was brave. His downfall was he didn't adapt. He didn't make any effort to change when it wasn't working. And that was his downfall. He did nothing.
That's why I think it's bigger picture. That's why I would give him a little bit of credit. I wouldn't be hard on him. It's bigger picture. If he can do that against us, and it nearly worked, then on Tuesday night, he probably has a better chance of doing the same thing and getting the result. And I don't mean the result. I mean getting out, getting the ball through that front two, working on that pattern, because the discipline that they showed to keep those banks and keep them intact, they worked their balls off.
But against Rangers' weak links, their defence. The defence is their weak link. Yeah. I would be praising that defence, because there's a mistake or two with that defence.
Yeah, Tavernier against Hibs was unbelievably bad, shocking. I said like a pure panic merchant. But we'll wait and see. So that was the Aberdeen game, and then who is it the weekend? Livingston?
Well, Wednesday night.
I'm fine. So I'm thinking this is a Thursday. Yeah, so Wednesday. Yeah, cause I don't know if I'll actually manage Christmas Eve. One of the games.
That's a weird one, isn't it? Christmas Eve.
Aye, I mean rubbish. So
fixture list is behaving exactly as planned.
How do you expect fixture? What we're playing catch up to, Dave?
Have a look. Go back and have a look at our fixtures after European games, and then have a look at our fixtures in this restart. We're playing the foreign team, the fourth place team, and I think St Johnston away. I think on Christmas Eve.
No, we've got home.
No, home is home. Home. It's at home. You better check up your fixtures, because you're the only person going to the League Cup semi-final here. So you better make sure you get your dates right.
Sure. He's coming out for a beer before, by the way.
Yes, it's literally 5 minutes from my house, but fuck's going to happen. If you want to park your car, you know what I'm at. Right, so last aspect, Christmas wishes. Right, obviously we wish on the listeners, the whole 4 of them, we're up to 4 this week. The very best for Christmas, and thanks very much for listening. But any Christmas wishes you can think of, Hector?
Celtic really
buying support trends, you're buying in particular. Would you recommend Speed?
Aye. No, for Celtic, first of all, just to keep doing what we're doing. I think the 18 months of Ange, and Monty first touched upon it, give the guy a few transfer windows, but the fact that he's demonstrating earlier and earlier his forward planning. We thought last year was unique, where he'd signed 3 players in Hogmanay, right? This time he's got 2 in fucking start of December. Right? So I just the fans just, the forward planning, you can see he's getting better. I would just like to see that continue. There are a couple of quality players coming in, just planning ahead to next year. Just keep that going and stay with them. We're going to get the occasional bump, and it's easy to crit, and fans can get blasé about things. Just, enjoy it, stay with them, need your support, and we're up against it. Just back them, stay with them, and I think we'll be able to do well.
Fair enough. Monty, anything for you? Would you like a nice heated driveway space, heated parking space from Mr. Lawwell?
Christmas wishes for Celtic that aren't a heated driveway for Peter. I again just echo what Hector said. I wish we had demonstrated this level of foresight in the last 10 or 15 years and backed our managers in the way we're backing. We might have seen O'Neill do a second cycle. We might have seen Rodgers hang about, but all that's great, and they were great times. It's wonderful watching where Celtic are at the minute, it feels that we're clicking, and the wish is that continues. And if we can crank it up a bit and give the man what he wants, whatever that happens to be, and back him, can't ask for more at the minute. I mean, we're ahead in the league. We went toe to toe with the biggest in Europe and didn't embarrass ourselves, even though we got turned over.
Here's the thing for both of you, just on that, right? There's a lot of talk that Juranovic, which we've discussed already, will more than likely get sold the next few weeks, right? And a lot of heavy talk linking Giakoumakis as well. Where I think's almost unique in my supporter experience with Celtic is that, see if they both get sold, I've got every faith in Ange that it won't really matter. If anything, he'll make us stronger once he gets in who he wants. That doesn't happen very often, certainly with Celtic. You lose some of your best players thinking we'll get better with this guy. So that itself maybe tells you its own story.
Yeah, I like the fact that even if Juranovic gets sold, they can already put the Fireball song to Haksar Banjanovic. So so we're recycling. We're showing we're the true green club.
ESG tuned.
You know what I mean? So I do know Ralph and I talked earlier on about Peter Lawwell made gifts. Ralph was hoping for a striker, and I was saying Ralph was hoping for a striker, and before January stroke or over the window. So I was saying Lawwell was a good chance Lawwell might present a Mr. Lee Griffiths and Angie's stocking. So that may be a pleasant surprise. You never know. And then I just had written down here. Hector getting the board, maybe a whole set of new travel rugs. I know you like your adventures, a wee set of travel rugs.
Well, the only thing I would say, Daisy, is remember I told you that they shared their tapas and that in Madrid. The bastard sent me a bill. You know what I mean?
A picture, they sent me a photo.
Sent me a bill. You believe that?
And then from Monty, I've got you're looking forward to the bumper book of world football predictions.
I was about to say, I'm going to get Hector a copy of that and post it over with my earmarked ones. I hope you got your 30 quid on Argentina for that.
No, I didn't do it.
So that's it. So it's just left for me to say thank you to everyone for listening and who's listened over the year. Of course, hope you all have a very good Christmas and New Year period. We should be back probably sometime near the end of January, knowing us, how often we do these podcasts, let's be honest. It depends which country in the world Monty can find Wi-Fi in to join us. Well, no idea if Ralph will ever join us again. Fingers crossed. He's somewhere in the noon, as far as we know at this point in time. So deepest, darkest, Argyllshire, good luck, Ralph. So it's just left for me to say thank you to Hector. Thank you, Hector.
Thanks, guys, and Merry Christmas to you and your families. Have a nice one.
Lovely. And you, and of course, thank you to Monty C. Burns. Thank you, Monty.
Yeah, thanks, lads. Nolig Hannah agus Aflin for Waisateve, as we would say over here.
There's Monty confirming the strength of Spadetown Lager when you drink too much. When you're only
lagers are available.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so hopefully you all get to wear your Soonest style jackets over Christmas and have a great time, and we'll rejoin you in 2023. Well, good luck for it. Thanks, folks. Have a great Christmas. Bye-bye.